Hello and welcome to India First, your fortnightly window to strategic affairs, security and defense matters. I am Nitin Gokhale. Today, we are going to discuss the situation in Kashmir in the wake of the all-party meeting that the government had convened last week on the last day of the parliament session. The Prime Minister has made an announcement that genuine problems of the people in Kashmir would be taken care of and they should have no fear on that count. He also spoke very strongly about Pakistan's hand in fomenting trouble in Jammu and Kashmir and especially in the Kashmir Valley and mentioning Pakistan's record of repressive regimes in Balochistan and the Pak-occupied Kashmir. To discuss what is going to be the way forward and what could be the way forward, we have an eminent panel with us. To my extreme left, Lieutenant General Mukesh Sabharwal, who has been a Corps Commander in Srinagar, the Corps Commander of 15 Corps. Next to him, Mr. Alok Bansal, again Pakistan expert and of course Strategic Affairs Specialist. And to my immediate left, Mr. Sushil Pandit, who is a political analyst and of course a regular on various TV channels. If I can start with you, General Sabharwal. The Prime Minister has now taken the initiative and has spoken to all the political parties. Where do you think we are headed now post this initiative?
I think it's a very welcome move, first of all, because as you know, 5 weeks and more, and situation is really not coming under reasonable control. Things have improved, of course, but I think at the end of the parliamentary session and to have an all-party meeting, which we believe there was a consensus in everybody speaking in the same voice, that they wanted the security levels to be controlled and there may be the curfew, etc., to really go away because the people are in kind of trouble. There's no doubt in that score. Sure. So from that angle, I think one voice as to what should be done, I think it's a very, very good and a very welcome move.
Right. Mr. Pandit, you are a political analyst. How do you see it panning out politically? Because there are differences of opinion how one should proceed on Kashmir. The BJP and of course the ruling NDA has one view. The Congress has tried to do something when they were in power. So how does this situation pan out politically?
See, politically, the biggest challenge that we face in Kashmir is to the Indian state, not to a specific political entity. Various set of policies and a bit of political neglect has led to erosion of the space that Indian state enjoyed in various aspects of Kashmiri life, and this erosion is visible across bureaucracy, across leading components of civil society, across academia, across media. It has perhaps also demoralized the security forces and put them on a back foot. And therefore, first and foremost, in order to restore some semblance of normalcy, India and Indian state will need to reclaim that space. There are various ways of doing it and I'm not going to go into elaboration of that.
Right.
But the sum and substance of what all that you must do should be driven by how to reclaim that space back.
Right.
This, unless this is done, both at the policy as well as the action level on ground, I'm afraid a lot of what has happened in the past 1 week, whether it is parliament, whether it is pronouncements at various levels, would remain empty talk.
Okay, so we'll have to wait and watch, and it should be followed up with some concrete action is what you would recommend, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Alok Bansal, you are a very avid Pakistan watcher and a commentator on Pakistan issues and of course India-Pakistan issues. Is it in your memory for the first time that the Prime Minister has spoken about Balochistan and Pak-occupied Kashmir in such forceful terms or different terms, if I can put it that way?
See, firstly, Pak-occupied Kashmir has been talked of earlier also in passing at different times. Even Balochistan, I presume, has been talked of by Mrs. Gandhi in early 70s.
That was long back.
But what is significant, what is very, very significant is the roadmap that's been told. The foreign minister has been told to engage with diaspora
Right.
from POK and Balochistan and contact them. And there is an immediate reaction. If you actually see Her Bayar Mari, Brahmadag Bhukti, they've all come out welcoming this statement. Because see, Balochistan, I think this sort of a proactive statement from India is undoubtedly a first. And this has gone a long way to bolster the sagging morale of the Baloch nationalists who have been facing the bulldozing by the Pakistan's military machine, who have seen gross human rights violation on their land. I think this sort of a statement has put Pakistan onto the defensive. And this comes after a long period when the international community has realized that the genesis of problem lies not in Kashmir Valley but in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And starting from 2007, a large number of international bodies have recognized this fact that the state in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir is far worse than in Kashmir Valley. Starting with Baroness Emma Nicholson's report, Human Rights Watch report, International Crisis Group report, all of them have said so. And I think now if India follows it up, then the people in Gilgit-Baltistan who have been actually seeking a connectivity with the India, who have been asking for some sort of a moral support, because in the past all Pakistani envoys have been calling Hurriyat conference leaders, but none of the Indian envoys have ever actually tried to engage with the leaders from Gilgit-Baltistan. So those people often felt that they were orphans without any support from the Indian establishment.
So is that the beginning now? Would that
To my
happen?
mind, it's a huge beginning, but I think in the coming days we would see so, because the direction that's been given, that the foreign minister should engage with them, that's I think the positive step, because today fortunately there are a large number of people from Gilgit-Baltistan as well as in Balochistan who are all over the West, from Europe to US, and many of them have actually been creating an atmosphere where people in the West are being acquainted with what's happening in these areas, how gross human rights violations have been taking place in these areas. And I think with little bit of support from India, these problems would come center stage.
But General Sabharwal, you just heard what Alok Bansal said. How would it help India solve the issue in Kashmir? This kind of a proactive approach on Balochistan or in Pak-occupied Kashmir. Will it help?
You see, first of all, I think taking a cue from what Alok has already said, we have been in the past mentioning POK, that and some rhetoric also at times that we will claim it and we will occupy it and various things. But I think this is a very realistic step in the sense that you are now telling your Indian people itself, well, this is what we are thinking about, that be it in the diplomatic mold, but may not be directly in the security mold. But I think it's very, very important that this is your area, so that means it's clarifying the policy. If the policy is clear, then even for the security analysts, for the security planners, they have something. Does not mean that you are going across by any means, but it's just that you're interested. There are things which are happening there, because the world over, and especially the Indians, always say that Pakistan taking interest in India's internal affairs, even if there is a blast somewhere, if there is some kind of riot happening in rest of India, not even in Kashmir, and there is a kind of a comment from that side. But here I think coming from right from the top, the political, the Prime Minister, as well as then asking the Foreign Minister to go ahead. So I think it's genuinely a good step. This is definitely important.
Okay, but moving away from the political or the larger strategic aspect of it, coming down to what has happened in the valley itself for the last 5 weeks or so, 5 or 6 weeks. You've been a corps commander there, and even in 2008 when the Amarnath Shrine Board agitation had started, you were at the helm there. How does the administration handle these kind of a thing? I mean, the trigger this time, of course, was a different reason, the killing of the young terrorists there. But they repeated these protests, stone pelting. So how does the administration, especially security forces, how do they handle this? How should they handle it?
Yeah, it's very right that you've made the connection between when it really started. We've seen this starting in 2008. That time there was the SASB or the Amarnath Shrine Board agitation which had started.
Right.
So that was a different cause. But the kind of agitation, you know, now we are talking of somebody saying there's a blockade. That time there was a huge talk of a blockade from the Jammu region.
Sure.
People not coming. I mean, the fruit growers, they were having problems. Their rations, etc., other fuel was not coming up,
Right.
which is not exactly true, because I know I was there that the administration took a lot of care, and that time there was a governor's rule,
Right.
and under the stewardship of His Excellency and Mr. N.N. Vora, there was a great job which was done at that time.
Yes.
But the fact is the crowds really started moving at that time, and there was, if you recall, Muzaffarabad Chalo and this type of thing. Now that was a very sensitive thing. If such a thing had been allowed to happen, and if that kind of a route had been opened, it could have opened the Pandora's box.
Right.
So we are lucky that thing, it was resolved at that time. But then, as you are aware, in 2010, Tufail Mattu, and then this stone pelting thing started.
That's right.
And with that having started, and our CAPF, with whatever restraint they followed, but things went out of hand, and
Sure.
there was those 100+ deaths.
That's right.
Now, a similar kind of a situation, people try and say this back to this or back to the 90s. I would like to reassure people, I don't think it is that kind of a situation, first of all.
Right.
I know this was a trigger, Burhan Wani was a trigger.
Yes.
But to say that things will go, and we have seen these kinds of ups and downs.
Through
It's
the
not that it is
last 26
new
years.
that what is
right.
happening. I know it's at this point of time a cause for concern.
Yes.
And then we should but as far as the security forces is concerned, I think this is the time the core group at the core headquarters and the unified headquarters, they have to come down and see how they can resolve. First of all, of course,
We'll talk about this. I need to take a break. We'll come back with lots more to talk about. We have a political analyst amidst us who will also give us the contours of what alienates the people of Kashmir and how can that alienation be removed. But we'll come back. Don't go away anywhere.
बचपन से ही मुझे पता था I was a born leader, और इस बात का एहसास दिलाया मेरी पहली जॉब ने। वो सब सिखाया जो कोई और नौकरी नहीं सिखा सकती। मैन मैनेजमेंट, टाइम मैनेजमेंट, क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट, सब कुछ। पहले ही दिन से मैं टीम को लीड कर रहा था, और जितने साल मैंने बिताए उससे कई ज्यादा एक्सपीरियंस मिला मुझे। और सबसे अच्छी बात, my first job made my second career possible.
हम है भारत के सबसे एक्साइटिंग वर्कप्लेस और हम दे रहे हैं आपको एक ऑफर। भारतीय सेना, आम नहीं ये जिंदगी।
प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना ने हम गांव वालों के लिए तरक्की के रास्ते खोल दिए।
सड़क के गड्ढों की फोटो खींच रहे हो? कोई खास बात है क्या?
अरे काका, मेरे मोबाइल फोन में मेरी सड़क ऐप है, जिससे प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क से जुड़ी कोई भी जानकारी सरकार तक भेजी जा सकती है। सड़क से जुड़े सुझाव या शिकायत पर सरकार वाजिब कार्यवाही करती है।
प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क से जुड़ी कोई भी बात, मेरी सड़क एंड्रॉइड ऐप अब हर पल मेरे साथ।
जन्म से लेकर 5 साल तक की उम्र के बच्चों को 7 बार टीकाकरण के लिए लेकर जाना है। 7 बार में से एक भी छूटना नहीं चाहिए। ये जिम्मेदारी हम सबकी है। ये जो बीच के टीके भूल जाते हैं ना, ये देखिए अच्छी बात नहीं है। सारे टीके समय से लगेंगे, तभी जानलेवा बीमारियों से बच्चों को सुरक्षा मिलेगी। 5 साल 7 बार छूटे ना टीका एक भी बार।
राजनीतिक स्वाधीनता या आजादी तो हमने 70 साल पहले प्राप्त कर ली थी, लेकिन ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की तरह आज भी हजारों विदेशी कंपनियां साबुन, शैम्पू, क्रीम, टूथपेस्ट व कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स आदि बेचकर देश की आर्थिक लूट कर रही है। आइए हम सब देशभक्त भारतीय इस स्वाधीनता दिवस पर पतंजलि के स्वदेश अभियान से जुड़कर देश को आर्थिक लूट व गुलामी से मुक्ति दिलाने का संकल्प लें। वंदे मातरम।
बचपन में पेड़ चढ़ना अच्छा लगता था, बड़ी हुई तो सब चाहते थे कॉर्पोरेट लैडर चढ़ जाऊं। कुर्सी पर बैठे इनविजिबल सीढ़ियां चढ़ना नॉट माई स्टाइल। मुझे पसंद है टेक्नोलॉजी और पहाड़ चढ़ना, एंड दिस इज द ओनली जॉब जो मुझे दोनों करने देता है। इट्स लोनली एट द टॉप, बट द व्यू इट्स इनक्रेडिबल।
हम है भारत के सबसे एक्साइटिंग वर्कप्लेस और हम दे रहे हैं आपको एक ऑफर। भारतीय सेना, आम नहीं ये जिंदगी।
राजनीतिक स्वाधीनता या आजादी तो हमने 70 साल पहले प्राप्त कर ली थी, लेकिन ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की तरह आज भी हजारों विदेशी कंपनियां साबुन, शैम्पू, क्रीम, टूथपेस्ट व कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स आदि बेचकर देश की आर्थिक लूट कर रही है। आइए हम सब देशभक्त भारतीय इस स्वाधीनता दिवस पर पतंजलि के स्वदेश अभियान से जुड़कर देश को आर्थिक लूट व गुलामी से मुक्ति दिलाने का संकल्प लें। वंदे मातरम।
आप समझ क्यों नहीं रहे? वो बहुत परेशान करते हैं मुझे, रैगिंग के नाम पे टॉर्चर करते हैं।
सीनियर्स रैगिंग नहीं करेंगे तो तुम स्मार्ट कैसे बनोगे? तुम्हारा कॉन्फिडेंस कैसे बढ़ेगा? बी ए मैन। आई एम सॉरी बेटा, आई एम रियली सॉरी।
आपके बच्चे की छोटी सी शिकायत किसी बड़ी मुसीबत का पैगाम हो सकती है, उसे नजरअंदाज ना करें। डोंट इग्नोर, टेक एक्शन।
इस बात को समझ लीजिए कि टीका लगाने के बाद बच्चे को हल्का सा बुखार आ सकता है, हो सकता है थोड़ी सी सूजन भी हो जाए। इस बुखार और दर्द का मतलब है कि टीका अपना काम कर रहा है और बच्चे को जानलेवा बीमारियों से बचा रहा है। वो बच्चा बीमार भी हो तो भी उसे टीके के लिए हर बार ले जाइए। 5 साल 7 बार, छूटे ना टीका एक भी बार।
People think techies are chained to their desks. Not me. I run UAVs. You know, drones. I have to say, it's pretty awesome. I grew up playing video games. And who would have thought that'll help me defend my country? Not my mom at least. We get there first and see what's around the corner so that there are no surprises for the rest of the team. We go everywhere, working with the latest and the best technology. But no Facebook.
We are India's most exciting workplace and we are making you an offer. The Indian Army. Live a life less ordinary.
साहब जी, ये हमारा जॉब कार्ड, ये हमारा काम की अर्जी।
ठीक है।
पावती तो दीजिए।
अरे हम पे भरोसा नहीं है क्या?
बात नियम की है साहब जी। पावती नहीं होगी तो पता कैसे चलेगा कि 15 दिन के भीतर हमको काम मिला कि नहीं मिला? और अगर हमको 15 दिन के भीतर काम नहीं मिला तो फिर हमें बेरोजगारी भत्ता कैसे मिलेगा? बताइए जरा।
अच्छा रुको, देता हूँ।
महात्मा गांधी नरेगा, हक ग्रामीण का, विकास गाँव का।
अब ठीक है।
जन्म से लेकर 5 साल तक की उम्र के बच्चों को 7 बार टीकाकरण के लिए लेकर जाना है। 7 बार में से एक भी छूटना नहीं चाहिए। ये जिम्मेदारी हम सबकी है। ये जो बीच के टीके भूल जाते हैं ना, ये देखिए अच्छी बात नहीं है। सारे टीके समय से लगेंगे तभी जानलेवा बीमारियों से बच्चों को सुरक्षा मिलेगी। 5 साल 7 बार, छूटे ना टीका एक भी बार।
राजनीतिक स्वाधीनता या आजादी तो हमने 70 साल पहले प्राप्त कर ली थी, लेकिन ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की तरह आज भी हजारों विदेशी कंपनियां साबुन, शैम्पू, क्रीम, टूथपेस्ट व कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स आदि बेचकर देश की आर्थिक लूट कर रही है। आइए हम सब देशभक्त भारतीय इस स्वाधीनता दिवस पर पतंजलि के स्वदेशी अभियान से जुड़कर देश को आर्थिक लूट व गुलामी से मुक्ति दिलाने का संकल्प लें। वंदे मातरम।
Welcome back. We are discussing the situation in Kashmir and the initiative taken by the government of calling the all-party meeting of all the political parties on the last day of the parliament session. But to continue with you, General, we were speaking about the security forces there, and I'll come back to Sushil Pandit. What do they need to do? What new things can they do, or can they have to repeat the same old methods that they've been following in controlling the situation?
Yeah, see, security, it's controlling the situation. First, let us just see what is the current situation.
Right.
Besides what has happened because of this trigger,
Correct.
because of Burhan, that is one part.
Yes.
But overall security parameters, if you notice, there has been a change.
Yes.
Say last year,
Right.
your infiltration levels are higher. The number of terrorists which have come inside, the number of terrorists that have been killed are more.
Yes.
And so the actions, etc., are more. There has been more recruitment which has taken place. Maybe it was because of guys like Burhan Wani
Yes.
and the kind of message which was going around. So those things have been upped, if I may use that word.
Yes.
So therefore, it has to be a concurrent effort by the security forces. One, by the army and the Rashtriya Rifles, they have to do their job on
Right.
the border as well as in the hinterland wherever
Sure.
is required. But I think more is required at the CAPF and the state police level, because that is where the real problem is. They are the
face
ones
the
who are
crowds.
facing
They face the crowds.
stone pelters and
Yeah.
everything else.
Exactly.
Now that is where things have to be done. And then there have been cause for concern about pellet injuries and things like
That's
that.
right.
So that's a separate issue, but we
we
need
will
to
talk about that, but let me come to you as far as a political approach to this entire problem. I mean, these are triggers, these are incidents, and as the General has said and we have all watched, these are episodes which continue after every 2-3 years. But overall, if India has to really look at, I won't say resolving really, but sort of putting a balm on the perceived and otherwise the realistic wounds of Kashmiris, what does one have to do politically?
See, first of all, you don't need great political strategy to start with. You need some basic, simple common sense. One of which is, you do not hand over bodies of slain militants for spectacular, frenzied funerals. There have been precedences in the past. Obama wasn't silly when they didn't even show a photograph of dead Osama
bin Laden.
Forget about handing over the body or even giving footage of how he was given sea burial.
Right.
Likewise, previous governments had buried both Maqbool Butt and Afzal Guru in nameless graves somewhere in Tihar.
Right.
You know, there was a build-up to Afzal's hanging with several mercy petitions, and then they getting rejected and so on and so forth. Had the body gone there then, there would have been much larger repercussions. In fact, without even body going there, people were anticipating trouble. There wasn't any.
That's right.
But this time, you first of all create a trophy out of a silly young terrorist, and then let situation go completely berserk by handing over the bodies. For the past 2 years this has been happening. Even the nameless, faceless militants from Pakistan, who were dead and who nobody knew, were given such funerals, and you knew thousands were gathered.
There,
So it is actually asking for trouble and shooting yourself in the foot, and then once you've created a situation, trying to control it. This policy started with the so-called healing touch and reaching out and letting people, get into a cathartic mode so that you let the steam off. I think these are harebrained ideas.
But those have gone out of control clearly, as we can see.
Absolutely. And this didn't just happen in Kashmir. I think even the central government or the state government in Maharashtra figured when Yaqub Memon was hanged in Mumbai,
that's right.
You created a spectacle out of nothing.
That's right.
So I think somewhere basic common sense failure was a problem, where intelligence gave you on a platter of most wanted terrorist. Your lack of common sense created a huge situation, and what it led to, Mr. Gokhale, I must point out, there is another exodus of Kashmiri Hindus who were given jobs in Kashmir Valley. There were 6 camps in which almost 2,000 of them stayed. 99% plus are today in Jammu, covering. Then, when they were surrounded, they covered in fear. Nobody was there to look after them. So, I think
we need to rethink on that.
Completely. Two, administratively, there has to be a will to hold. Every time there was an encounter or a security force action, the first instinctive the response of the political leadership was to distance themselves from the security
That, of
forces.
course, is an issue we'll talk about.
I mean, how can you fight insurgency and not own up an anti-insurgency and combing operation?
Very mixed signals were going. But Alok, what is your prognosis? Where do we go forward from here? Let's talk about that now.
See, I think one of the big things that needs to be conveyed is that there was a sense of listlessness for some time after the demonstration started. I think a message needs to go clearly, and I think that has gone from the all-party meet. Firstly, that there is unanimity as far as territorial integrity of the country is concerned, and as far as law and order is concerned, that has to be maintained. I think all political parties agree on this particular point. So the first requirement is to bring order into the state, and to that extent, I think some tough measures may be required. And once law and order has been established, then you start open political lines, open political channels of communication, because eventually the solution would have to come through political negotiations. And another thing which is important, and which Prime Minister said very categorically, was that the problem in Jammu and Kashmir is a problem of terrorism, and which is sponsored from across the borders. So now if you put Pakistan onto the back foot, I think that support that's been coming from Pakistan for these terrorists, the infiltration, would to some extent reduce. And if that reduces, you will find things changing. At the same time, I think the developmental package which the government has been pursuing is progressing fast. The connectivity, which is the key to the development of Jammu and Kashmir, both train as well as road connectivity,
is improving.
Is improving considerably. It's already improved, but with this 4-laning of the highway, with the tunnel which is coming across, it will become much easier. And once the train connectivity is established, I think
things will be better. So we'll actually, I wish we had more time. There is always this time constraint. We've discussed what could be done and what is happening there. We have run completely out of time, I'm afraid, because this is the limit is there for discussing this. As we see it, as we see here, as after the discussion, the government needs to have common sense and, of course, have a common sense approach and have a mix of things to do if they want the situation to come under control. The sequencing could be a matter of debate, but that is best left to the government. So clearly, Jammu and Kashmir needs not just the healing touch, but also a very well thought out strategy. All that remains for me to do is to say thank you to all my panelists here, and we'll see you again in a fortnight's time.